Well, thank you so much for staying with us on the program this morning. Up next in our conversation is the amended version of the Electoral Act, which the National Assembly is poised to pass in the coming days. Of course, you know that it has caused a lot of, it's generated a lot of reaction over time and it's caused many to worry about the intentions of lawmakers. It is also believed that the amendments... Well, the suspicion is definitely genuine for many people. And that it's also believed that it gives tremendous power to electoral officers and less power to INEC, even if the former, as the electoral officer, erred in judgment, or, as the excuse may be, does whatever under duress or at gunpoint or at whatever, you know. So
how do we get to the point where electoral officers are being held at gunpoint to announce results?
You know, when you want to build a house, you don't build from the roof. You build from the foundation. So it was a long time coming. Oh, yes, it was a long time coming. I mean, did we have a concerted plan to de-emphasize electoral officers? Why am I answering your question? You should be asking our panel this morning. Mr. John Ekunda.
Yes, and I'm going to ask them that question.
Yes, please do. Mr. John Ekunda joins us here in the studio. He is a leadership researcher and columnist. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Sir Precious Elikama is a human rights consultant and member, National Consultative Front. He joins us from our Abuja studio. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we also hope to have Mr. Godi Uwazurike, who is a legal practitioner, in the course of the program this morning. Well, I understand he has joined us already. Thanks for joining us, Mr. Uwazurike. Oh, okay. We'll bring him back. That's technology. And that's perhaps why, is it because of these challenges with technology that we haven't had electronic voting?
Not really, because everything can be tweeted. You know, there's a way that there could be a kind of, when you have the robustness of the system, over time, you get, you know, like the banking system, for instance, over years, even the telecommunication system, are we not getting better? But we have to try. We have to start somewhere.
We must start.
Yes.
Okay, so why are we still doing, if we have done banking differently over the years, we have done education, telecom over the years differently.
Even JAMB?
Yes.
Getting even more money. The federal government is making more money from JAMB now because, you know, you have the CBT or whatever you
I'm
call
even
it.
surprised that JAMB is making money.
Yes, billions come in.
So what do you think is holding us back from doing the same thing in our electoral process?
For me, I would say it's primordial, pecuniary, you know, puerile thinking. That is it. That's what I would call it as a researcher. Is it because we are talking about electoral act of 2010? This 2021, for crying out loud, and you have the National Assembly members, many of them that are widely informed, widely educated, traveled, and you are still subjecting us to this archaic, antiquated, atavistic electoral act of 2010 in this digital age.
For individual gain.
Yes, for individual gain. And, you know, as leaders, you should actually be thinking not of winning elections, but of the next generation. What are you going to bequeath to the coming generations that are coming? Because this is the foundation of our electoral process.
You talked about, you said from research, as a leadership researcher.
Yeah.
What are the things that you have found out? We went to the polls and, you know, in the First Republic, the same way we went in the Second Republic, and the same way we went in the Third Republic. What has changed in our electoral process over the years from your research findings?
Little has changed. That's regrettably. Little has changed. Is it because there was a time we have option A4, you know, which is, you know, even then at that time, because of the level of technology and especially we have, was still better. And that election happened to be the the best we have ever had in Nigeria, without any contention. You see, but coming from there, and we are now in 2021, in digital age. So you really need, how can we still be counting votes?
One by one.
One by one.
Yes.
You see? And
But
then,
we still use technology to at least to calculate the votes. You know, when we see it on television, there is always that screen and then there's a computer.
I left Lagos in 2018, and I went to Ekiti State. That's my home state. I purposely went. In research, there's something you call ethnography. You are in the midst of the people, you are conducting your research, and people don't know you are even doing it. That's why I went to my town. I went to my unit to register. I don't just want to be, an elite, and just there, we are all on Twitter, on Instagram, WhatsApp, we are making noise. And that's the problem we have. Our elites are part of the problem. And that's why I did research and followership. You see, because you have Nigerian followers, they are so docile, they are so alienated.
We'll come to them, but please complete your train of thought on that research finding.
Now, for my research finding, like if we can have our, people's votes counting, many people still believe their votes are not counting.
Is that your experience when you went back home during that process?
Not really. What I discovered from that was that, looking at the process, number one, where we were voting, you have agents of the party right by our side. And you know the ballot something. You have the number of political parties, which is even too kind of clumsy. You see, but then they know when you are picking this party, and they are two most popular popular party. When you are when you are thumbprinting one party or the other one, they know. And as you are coming out, you know what I discover? People are already waiting. When they know what they are greeting you and they are smiling and they want to offer. I say, what? Pay me for what? This is my own duty. This is my own duty to come and vote. So it's not your money.
But
so the money is offered after you have voted?
Yes.
Exactly. So
because the agents are standing by the side.
So they have not in any way affected the way you voted?
No, really.
They did not talk to you before you went into vote?
Because I have my own independent mind. As an elite, as somebody educated. Other people, I don't know what happened, so I don't want to comment on that they are met in their homes or other places, the political parties. It's not just one party, all the parties. It's just a matter of you are giving me 1,000, I'm giving you 2, or the other one is paying 5,000. And most people, because of the level of poverty, and that's where at times I don't blame the followers, the level of poverty in Nigeria it's still too demeaning, and that is what politicians they play around with when election is coming.
Let me take the opinion of Sir Elikama, but I understand that we have a commercial message to take, but that's in about a minute or two from now. Mr. Elikama, the response to the Electoral Act, both the gazetted one and the one that's being contended, is quite a lot now. So I'm just wondering, first of all, let me even take your opinion on all of that furore that is going on. Do you think it's even worth it? Aren't we jumping the gun? Aren't we putting the cart before the horse, in a manner of speaking?
Look, I'll tell you something. The most important thing in Nigeria today, in the lives of everybody, is how we will choose our leaders. Because that is the problem that has generated all the hits you have. All the talk about Kanu, Igboho, the cries from the Arewa State, the cries from the Niger Delta, is all about leadership. And leadership is key. Leadership can be instructive, some can be destructive. We have a complete leadership failure. So do not be too surprised, and I am not surprised, that it is generating this kind of hit. I want to believe that the members of the National Assembly will understand that they themselves are not immune, because if they go ahead to do what is wrong, they either walk into it, but I know that their families are all involved in it. The foundation of Nigeria rests on the Electoral Act. Nigeria is already vulnerable. Nobody's too sure of what's going to happen the next day. And the whole cry is directed against one region or the other region, or one ethnic group or the other ethnic group, trying to find whose fault. But the fault is, how do we choose our leaders? How do you get the leaders? We have representative government, form of government that we are operating here, where people are elected to represent us. How were they elected? Who elected them? That's the problem. Who elected? We have a situation whereby 95% of elected officials, or nearly 99%, owe the birth of the elections to fraud or force or accident. And most of them don't have a business to do with people, because the science of government is different from the science you read about. The science of government deals a lot with empathy. What are you thinking?
Mr. Lekama, just one moment.
What are you thinking about the people you want to lead?
Yeah, it's an expansion of
And from the
conversation.
foundation of politics,
Yeah, just one moment, Mr.
it's
Lekama.
always recommended that the people should be.
Yeah, just one moment. It's that's you're already expanding the conversation, and that's appreciated. But let's talk about the subject matter indeed, and that's talking about the amendments, the proposed amendments to the electoral bill. Which one of them stands out for you? The one that's causing a lot of noise for now, the most, is the provision concerning the electronic voting. And that's generated a lot of response already. Another one that many people are talking about is funding the elections, when the benchmark has been increased significantly for the presidential election, governorship election, down to the councillorship election. Which one of these proposed amendments stands out for you the most?
Look, what stands out is how the elections will be conducted. The transmission of results, the use of the electronic card reader for accreditation by biometrics. They should not economize the words. Every unit should transmit their result. I want that to be spelled out properly, every unit, every polling unit. Because if they just say that election results should be transmitted electronically, Nigerians will take advantage and say they did not specify it in units. They should specify every polling unit must transmit their results electronically. Every other collation center, from the ward collation center to the local government collation center to the state collation center to the national collation center, should all also transmit their results electronically. Let us waste 1 minute to write it one after the other so that nobody takes advantage of it, because the matter at hand is too serious for anybody to say that we are wasting time. There should be no word like may. Nobody should write may, because you can see that in spite of the fact that everybody needs to show that there is sincerity, there is argument about who to become electoral commissioner and who not to be electoral commissioner. At this stage, there should be only shall. Everybody shall transmit their result. There should be no may. It is important that we say these things in very strong words, that nobody should talk about may, because as soon as the word may comes up, they will write the results again.
Okay. Well, Mr. Lekama,
Nigeria is may.
Yeah. You know what? That word is actually very interesting when you put it that way, because it will seem like it's may or may not. But is that the case, really? Well, we'll take a short break. When we come back, more on this conversation.
We may go on a short break.
No, we have to go on a short break. Thanks for staying with us. I was hoping that we'll be able to speak with Mr. Godi Wazirike now. Being a legal practitioner, he should be able to tell us both the legal and the grammatical differences between may and shall. But while we're still waiting for him, let me talk to Mr. Kundayo. One of the things that is also here, part of the recommendations in the proposition is the Electoral Offences Tribunal. There is also the reference to the WISE committee who had recommended, who had, opined and identified that the existence of weak democratic institutions and processes is one of the things responsible for the poverty or paucity of our electoral process. And a good number of people would agree. They do agree to a large extent. And that's why the committee had recommended the establishment of Electoral Offences Commission to deal with cases of electoral offences. But before I take you up on that, I understand that Mr. Wazirike has joined us. So, Your Lordship, if that is okay by you, Godi Wazirike is a legal practitioner. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, there is that word that the Constitution uses, that laws use, X may happen, and of course you see that also, that INEC may, conduct elections in a way that they deem right. And then, of course, before that provision that many people are contending with. And Mr. Elikama is saying that we shouldn't use the word may in the law, we should make it shall. What's the difference and how significant is that in law?
Well, the word shall is mandatory. It means you have no option but to do it.
Is that law? Just 1 second. Is that law or grammar?
No, law. Shall in law means mandatory, means must. This shall happen. Now, this may happen is going to give you options. In fact, you decide how you want to do it. You may conduct election. It's different from you shall conduct election. Yeah. The reason is very simple. If there's prevailing circumstances, then the word may becomes the reasonable thing to use. But Nigeria shall have independence on October 1, 1960, mandatory. Nigeria may have independence October 1, 1960, optional. You may leave, you may go, those are options, but you shall go to this place. It's mandatory.
Okay.
So what they're saying in the Constitution in using the word may is actually trying to do what is obtainable in most countries. Method of election. How to conduct the election. These are things the Constitution actually imposed on INEC. The day of the election is a duty imposed on INEC. It's not by law. Some years ago, there was an Electoral Act.
Oh dear, I hope we'll be able to have him back, because I was going to actually read that provision of the law to him, where that suggestion, it says, voting in an election under this bill shall be in accordance with the procedure determined by the Commission, which may include, and I think that's where Mr. Elikama is having issues with. Is that really the issue, Mr. Elikama? I'll still come to you, Mr. Kundayo. But is that really the issue? Because, I mean, if you also consider the challenges of technology, perhaps the law also envisages that since we do not have 100% internet integration across all of the nation, perhaps that's the reason for the inclusion of may in that part of the law, which says the election shall be in accordance with the procedure determined by the Commission, which may include electronic voting. maybe the law envisaged that since we don't have electronic 100% internet penetration, maybe that is why it's there. What do you think?
The situation in Nigeria is too serious. We can't make compromises, because there's too much criminality in the system. So you can't make compromises. Let the word be shall. Issue of technology, Nigeria is covered with satellite. If you go to Google Earth, you will be able to see every nook and cranny of Nigeria. So the issue of somebody saying we don't have total coverage does not have a place. The other aspect of it is data. We can pay for data. INEC can pay for data. Transponders anywhere in Nigeria will receive satellite data, and we can use. The trouble in Nigeria is too serious for us to go and start compromising our words so that we'll give room for those who will go and write the result. Please, let us try as much as we can. Agree that it will be shall. We shall use electronic system. Look, conduct of election created Nigerian civil war. Over 1 million people died. Election had been killing people, killing youth corpers, killing everybody. Election has rocked this country. Right now, the country is so insecure because election had given birth to people who has no business with government. Let us choose our people by ourselves. Let the word shall be used. No INEC commissioner, no INEC chairman should pretend to say there is no technology. There are companies in the world whose business is to conduct elections. INEC should not say they have no technology. They don't have any kind of qualification to determine what to say. There are reputable companies in the world that they should contact. They will be pay them not up to 80% of the humongous money they are collecting to conduct this election. Nigerians will not compromise this time. If the chairman of INEC and his people feel they cannot do it, let them go. Let us have people who are ready to outsource.
I do beg your pardon. I beg your pardon.
To very reputable companies.
I beg your pardon. You said that it has to, shall should be inserted into that part of the bill. But there are nooks and crannies of this country. For instance, I come from Delta states, and there are communities that are on water. There may not be internet penetration there. So how do you suggest that the votes from that area be transmitted to the INEC headquarters, maybe in the state capital or in the biggest town nearest to this village I'm talking about, which is exclusively on water?
Let me tell you. First of all, where you are is covered by satellite. So if you go to Google Earth, you will see a village there. As soon as you take any transponders to that place, you will have the data to do all what you want. INEC has the money. INEC is not qualified to tell us they don't have data. They should call the professional companies who are conducting elections in more terrible countries like India and all that. They will conduct the elections for us in those areas. There is no part of Nigeria where you install transponders, you will not have data. Data is everywhere. It has to do with, if you don't install the equipment to receive data, you will not have data. So INEC has so many billions and billions of dollars or naira that nobody knows what happens for the past how many elections they have conducted. These time elections, we will not give it to INEC to say it is May, and they give us a leadership that this country will go off. There are companies, I will tell you, Dominion voting systems, they conducted the last US elections. Trump said elections were not fair. They counted and recounted and recounted and recounted, and they found nothing. Please, let INEC save Nigeria. Conduct of election had destroyed this country.
Okay. Well,
INEC
just one
should
moment,
save
Mr.
Nigeria
Lekima. Let's expand this conversation. Well, since we have a lawyer in our midst, I think it's only fair that we should bring him into the conversation. So, Mr. Wazuruke, you were talking about the reasons that law uses those specific words, may, shall, and the rest of it. You were trying to conduct complete your thoughts just before that technological interjection. Could you please go ahead?
The discretion given by the Constitution is something that the House or the National Assembly cannot take away. As it is today in Nigeria, the method and how elections will be conducted will always be left with INEC. Not by law, subsidiary law as this one is, statutory law, no, it's by Constitution. So for the House to make any bill to pass through, it must be in compliance with the Constitution. And the Constitution has given them that power, which was why over the years I've tried to do one electronic thing or the other. When it fails, they'll go back and read the trial of Atiku versus Buhari. If you remember, INEC kept on denying the existence of certain things. One of them is electronic voting, electronic records, and all those things. And they were challenging Atiku to go ahead and prove. And Atiku couldn't prove the negative. So in today's bill, which is still under consideration, by using the word may, they may not have offended anybody. If they use the word shall, and what if, like my sister from the River Rhine area will tell you, there is no electricity in the oil-producing areas? What will happen to them? Mm-hmm. That's why the discretion comes. But for purposes of sound election, clear and fair election, we should make sure that those things that will make for clear and fair election are there. One of them is technology. We have the money, we have the means, we have the people. It is only the political will which we are still lacking. That's why they're still using the word may. If they want to amend the Constitution to give INEC some authority, such as one, it must be by electronic means, they can do that. And then if they want to have an electoral bill that emphasizes that word shall, then they can do that. But until the political will is there, they may still just be hanging on with only the word may.
Okay, Chief, now that you have explained, we've had this grammar lesson from you. Now, where do you stand on this recommendation of electronic voting?
I am in favor of the word shall. I want electronic voting to go on, and I want the government to give that infrastructure that will enable electronic voting to be done. Let's not pretend about it. If we want a good election, finance it. And we have the money to finance it. Let us go ahead. It's the political will that is lacking. And we say there is enough time to even do a modern election.
I wonder what...
They will sign the bill.
Yeah, I wonder what it would look like if, for instance, I say here now that this clause of the bill should read, voting in an election under this bill shall be in accordance with the procedure determined by the Commission, which shall include electronic voting. I say all in favor, say aye. Clearly, you will say the ayes have it. But let me ask Mr. Ekundayo here. Dr. John Ekundayo, thank you. You were trying to lead conversation into the Electoral Offences Tribunal the other time, and you also had Mr. Lekima, telling us how electoral offences have affected several lives. People have been killed, and consequently, to a large extent, according to him, progress, so to speak, has been delayed significantly. Now, and clearly, I mean, a number of people have also posited that so many times that we have electoral violence, arresting the people has been an issue. We haven't had significant deterrence in prosecuting those who have committed these offenses. How difficult could this be, in your opinion?
Actually, like what the legal practitioner said, our problem has been the political way, Ayo. It has been the political way. Now,
you see,
do we want to go back?
Dr. Okunda,
no, wait.
Every time I hear political
okay,
will,
wait.
Let's
go back.
Sounds to me, just
let's
one second.
Okay.
It sounds to me like we're trying to make excuses for those who were employed to do a job. They were employed to, if they are politicians,
for instance,
political will should be a given.
For instance, the UIA's recommendation, how many years had it been there, resting on the shelf? What has been done to it? So when we are talking about political will, you see, that is why followers, we will still need, I and you and the rest people on the street, you see, instead of answers that all these things, violence, something, we need to really, what the human rights, I mean, what the civil society organizations are doing now, mounting pressure on the National Assembly. That's what the followers need to do, peacefully, proactively. When the pressure is there, peacefully, proactively, then the political will come. You see, because...
By force.
By force. It will come. You see, because your family members will tell you, your friends will tell you, what are you doing there? You know, why can't you do this? And when the pressure, because that's how democracy is developed. You see, like I mentioned in my column, we are the last cent democracy. We may be saying, oh, Nigeria is most populous in Africa. You see, but our democracy has not been developed, has not been deepened.
Could it be, Dr. Knayo, because the people have not been conscientized, just as you said the other time, because electoral offenses are not committed by ghosts. They are committed by the people that you talked about, the followers.
Who are never found.
Yeah. Could it be that because the people have not been conscientized, or the sense of nationhood hasn't been, indoctrinated into them?
Not really that. And I don't want us to stigmatize the followers. Even when we are talking about election offenses, the leaders are culprits. You see, because when we begin to dig down into all this, because they are the one that are behind, they want to win the election by all means. And that's why you have violence, you have thuggery, you have falsification of results, a lot of all these offenses. But how many people have been convicted from 1999 to date?
Well, the police will tell you that some people have been convicted. Some have been, a number have been arrested.
They will be detained. After some time, election have been won, announced.
But they always say that the challenge is that of evidence.
I think the way out here is this. We need to have electoral offenses tribunal. We need to have that. So that, and then within the...
How significant will that be? That role, that responsibility is already in the law.
Yeah.
There is an election offenses, column in the law. So how significant, and that's why it's the police that does the investigation and gives the file to INEC to go and prosecute.
Now, you have to know one thing.
And Ayo, please bear in mind that most of these offenders are agents of the high and mighty.
That's one. And even our courts, the courts we have, are already overwhelmed with cases. And there are some cases that, they are really of priority. So that is why you need a tribunal for election offenses. So that...
Specifically,
so that within 2 months, 1 month, you are jailed, or you have to pay a fine, whichever, or maybe both. And when we begin to see this, it will serve as deterrent to others. We need to get to that point.
Chief Wazirike, what are your thoughts about this? Do you think jailing one minion is going to deter the big gun who's really benefiting from this fraud which has been committed?
Well, like you rightly said, the big gun is somewhere sitting down in his air-conditioned room, and the small boys for a lot of money are very busy doing their things. Let us start from one, all those dirty boys and all those small boys, we have to arrest them and try them. Like my brother, Dr. Kunda, said, I can't remember anybody jailed for electoral offenses except one small one that was done recently. So in this country, we major in the minor and minor in the major. As it is today, the real electoral offenders are actually in the cozy offices of INEC. They change and write anything. And when you challenge them to bring out the real results, they tell you, go and prove it. And how can you prove what you don't have? So we want to go the honest way, get the real culprits, get the minor culprits and jail them. And of course, ban them from future elections. The moment we do that, the moment the courts are actually empowered to do that, then some things will change. But as it is today, 3/4 of those who won the election did not win any election. You can quote me on that. They only maneuver their way. And that is why when an honest man comes to contest the election, he finds it difficult to have a foothold. He may not even vote on that day because his name will not be on the register. That is a terrible situation we are in this country. Look at the primaries of the parties. You have many people locked out. So you can imagine what will happen in elections. Anambra is coming up very soon. Just watch the civil war between brothers erupt.
Chief, Mike
Yes.
Guinea is just reminding us that the High Court jailed Professor Peter Ogban for fraudulently reducing Senator Ekpenyong's votes by 5,000 and adding same to Akpabio's. And INEC was able to track and expose it. And the professor, the good professor, will spend 3 years in jail.
Now, that's why I said earlier.
One person has been jailed.
I'm happy with my brother Igini. It is Igini's personal drive in a Bible that led to that victory for the people. And I will always raise my arms for him because he knows what the people want. If they can have 5 more people like Igini in INEC, believe me, things will change. Igini has been threatened everywhere. Cross River, Akwa Ibom, but he stood his ground. And that is the minor victory I'm talking of.
Chief Wazirike, there are 36 at least in each of the states in the country, and there are quite a number of INEC commissioners, national commissioners all over the nation. So if we do not have, and they were employed to do exactly the same thing that Mr. Mike Guinea is doing. So if they are not doing it, we need to ask them questions. Do they still deserve to be in the roles that they are occupying? Because if they are not doing what they're expected to do, then I don't know if they should be in that office. But let me take this to Ms. Sa'ili Kama in our studio in Abuja. One of the challenges that we have also seen is that sometimes pre-election matters affect election results. Pre-election matters affect election results, and such that even while someone is already seated in office, the person can be removed from office based on a pre-election matter. That's another thing, one of the recommendations that's also being tinkered with in the Electoral Act. First of all, I would say that the people who should be taking on concerning this particular matter are the political parties. What do you think is responsible for that delay in the activities of the political parties such that pre-election matters have such significant effect on results? They shouldn't even go to the polls at all.
Well, you have a country where everybody practices dictatorship. So from the internal party level, they feel they have the power to determine who should be a candidate. They do not want the people to elect who will serve them well. And that is what creates all the big issue about the pre-electoral matters. So most times they will say, it's the party that wins election. So let the party go and run the election. Meanwhile, they had put the fake name of the guy who didn't run the elections. And then if the other man is lucky, he tries until he's so lucky that the courts can answer his prayers, then he becomes the real person elected. But I think that what is wrong is how the elections will be conducted. That is more serious to me than the pre-election matters. Those are internal matters of the party. You have a limit you can discuss on that, because if they go to court, they will bring a Supreme Court judgment to say that parties' decisions are final.
Okay.
So I don't want us to waste so much time about talking about what they do in their internal houses, because the courts already say that Those are internal party issues.
Well,
Let us talk about how
one of the
Nigerians-
things that a number of people would say about that is if they got it right within the political party, it will probably have a significant effect on the entire process. I would take responses on that from everyone, but right now we are completely out of time. We have to thank you very much for being a part of this conversation and sharing your thoughts as well. Sir Precious Elekema is human rights consultant and member of the National Consultative Front. We have also engaged Chief Godi Uwazurike, who is a legal practitioner, who has given us a lecture on shall and may, both from the legal and the grammatical angle, as well as Dr. John Moyo Ekundaya, who is a leadership researcher and columnist. Thank you very much for your time and thoughts this morning.
Thank you, JMO.
Thank you.
So, Sunrise is back in a moment. Do stay with us.